Hello friends, Jennifer Pearson here, Thistle Gypsy. So I'm going to post this as kind of the Exploring Connections series in terms of it being about energy work and shamanic kind of stuff, but it's really weird. If you ask me, it's really weird. So I'm trying to step into the idea that excuse me, that I can be healed by whatever the lower world, the upper world, the, light beings, the lava, whatever, that this, just trying to, I don't know that I ask that this morning, and part of the reason I'm recording this is quite late at night is because I don't want to completely forget it. I've already found that a lot of it's going. But so a lot of the healing that has kind of occurred has been accidental, in the sense that I'm not going to on any shamanic journey. I'm just going and just asking to be led or shown or whatever. I'm not asking for healing. So this morning I had more of a healing intention, and this was shortly after getting up, and I had a quartz point that I was going to be working with. It was just scheduled to be worked with next. And these cards are just here for visual because they're weird. It's the Shaman's Oracle. So I had, so this is going to kind of be weirder than a normal connections thing. But so I kind of went in with the idea of, all right, so the last time this body scan was done, and then I chickened out when the light people brought me up to the table. If you haven't seen my other videos, it's going to sound totally insane. And even then, it might sound insane. But, so I thought, all right, so when that happened, what I described in my last episode of Exploring Connections, I just sort of opened, just sort of like I opened the door, and suddenly this action was being taken on me. And so this time I tried to invite it. I essentially was saying, okay, so you found the black rock and you removed the black rock. Great. Let's see if we can do something more dramatic, or, let's go through, and I don't know that I wasn't looking for dramatic, but more thorough. All right, there's got to be more, just because of my health problems. There's got to be more than the little black rock. There's got to be more in there, or out, or whatever. So I try to invite the kind of, they had kind of these scanning things that were going over me, that were kind of going over me and just sort of filtering or scanning through me or something the last time. But it's strange, because it's not like I can't, or it's not very effective if I ask for specifically that. Bring that down. Scan me again with that. It just doesn't, it doesn't materialize. Which is really strange, because before, when I wasn't asking for anything, I just sort of opened the door, and then all of this stuff was happening, kind of clearly and very persistently. And so this time I tried to ask for it, and it was all kind of dilute. But a couple of things came up, so I can't quite tell it like a story. I can just pick some things out. One was that there, and I've mentioned this before, there seems to be a blockage of some kind that keeps me from being totally integrated, and it's like between, like right above my solar plexus. So it's between my solar plexus chakra and my heart chakra is how I perceive it. So just about where the transverse colon is, from my understanding. I've done a little self gut massage and have looked it up online and done that, and I think that's what that's called, that goes above your, under, kind of under your solar plexus, but kind of where you would think your stomach would be, is actually, there's this intestine that goes across it. So on a horizontal, it goes horizontally up, or excuse me, across. And so it seemed like it was about there. And so, and there were things coming in to help me kind of crumble it or dissolve it. It became very dry, but it was self-renewing. And I've had that experience with other things where I've experienced like there's a blockage of some kind. It's like it, there are things, in my case it was like wood beetles or something, were in there chewing it up and dissolving it. It's breaking all apart, and yet it's regenerating. They're never finished. It's just constantly regenerating. And so that just sort of stopped there. And but I felt like there was like a stick there, and my lava mama that comes up from the root, or from the earth, came up and took a hold of that stick, but she can't do anything to it. And so she again had to reach up and like hand it to, or just put it in the light area. And that helped, but didn't get rid of it. I also had other, like power animals helping. A dragon was in there swirling around and around, and it's like it's all muddy, and this dragon was swirling around and around in the mud, breaking it up, loosening it up, and at one point it all fell down, but it was still, again, it was self-renewing. So it's a really weird, consistent blockage, and I don't know where it's coming from or what. I feel like it's not, like I'm trying to attack something localized that isn't localized, that is coming from elsewhere or is part of something else. Because when you work on it, when it's localized, there's no success. And so to me, that means that there's something wrong with the concept of how it's being approached. So it must be coming from some other source or have some other root that neither me nor my helpers seem to get. So I'll have to ask some questions, not of the tarot or oracle, but within that spirit realm, if that's what it is. I'll ask about it. So that's an unsolved mystery. Here's my unsolved mystery, is that issue. But and I don't remember sequence-wise which was first. But another thing that happened was, I was just sort of sensing at that point. I was just going through the chakras and sensing where there was an issue. And there was an issue down in the sacral or root chakra. And I just focused on it. and just said something very vague like, can we take care of this? There's an achiness down there. Can we take care of this? And what I refer to as the lava mama, again, she came up. And it's like she reached inside me. Sometimes there's reaching up through the energy, like, but this was like reaching inside me physically, and drew out a baby, a fetus. So she drew that out, and my understanding was that, I mean, this was the phrase that came to me and stuck with me, is that I was, and now I can't even remember the first word, that I essentially had somebody else's baby, or a baby that was not mine. I don't know if harboring is the right word, but something like that. It's like I was holding inside me a baby that wasn't mine. So that sounds Freudian or psychological or something, but that wasn't quite the feel of it. And that's what she did. I mean, it was kind of gross, really. She pulled a fetus out of me and then just took it, into the earth. There was no, it wasn't mine. It wasn't mine. It shouldn't have been there. So that was really weird. And another thing that happened was, so I am bear identified. I identify with bear. I think of bear not as a power animal, but as me, like a totem animal. That it's, and I've even expressed this before, and I just learned that this is a concept in Norse belief systems, old Norse belief systems. And so that felt validating to find that, is that the bear that I have known and been aware of, is part of me, and it actually weakens when I weaken, as opposed to a power animal, which is separate and, can aid and is not affected by my own condition. And so my mind was just lingering for some reason on bear, or wanting to get in touch with bear. And for some reason we ended up in that the area of the light beings kind of a thing. And what it was indicating is that we were separate. So the two of us were separate. There was bear and there was me, but we aren't supposed to be. We're supposed to be joined. And up in that area we were turned clear. Just like that black stone was turned clear, I was turned clear, and bear was turned clear. And somehow I took bear into me again, so that bear is in, so that we're united again. That somehow we got separated. And again, I don't know why. I don't know that I need to know that. But there was this joining back together. And it was done in that white light area up there, but there was no sense that there were no like visible light beings. There was nobody specifically helping do this. It's just kind of like it's the nature of that environment to allow and then suggest and fix this without necessarily having any specific being there doing the fixing. So so that happened. So it's like so that's like 2 healings. And then there was or in another attempt at a healing there at my solar plexus. And it was actually making me feel nauseated. not super nauseated, just mildly nauseated. And so there was that, and then there was this issue of I just kept hearing that my eyes, either it's not that they're bad eyes, like, you know, you can't see very well, but that there's something wrong with them, like I had faulty eyes or wrong eyes or incorrect eyes or something like that. And but there was nothing, I couldn't figure out what to do about it. It's like in my eyes were like I was standing outside myself or inside myself, like looking at my eyes, like standing inside myself, inside my conscious, looking at my eyes in front of me, the physical eyes, like the eyeball. So I'm behind it and looking at it and trying to figure out what's, you know, what's wrong and or what to do about it. I mean, there was this notion that my eyes had to be removed. It's a weird idea. And at that point, I think I kind of let it go because it was like, again, my eyes wouldn't allow themselves to be removed. There was no understanding of quite what that meant, or, you know, not that you need to go eyeless, and so what do you replace them with? So there was logic was interfering there also. But then later in the day, while I'm doing my work, I don't know why the notion of a pig came up. The notion of a pig came up, and I thought, oh, the pig can help me with the eyes. And immediately, that's what I had this imagining in my head, like a big snout coming at me and taking, you know, no pain or anything, you know, taking my eye, like eating my eye and then swallowing the eye. So it's like the divine pig. The divine pig showed up and took one of my eyes. I don't remember it being both. And I don't remember which eye it was. But, you know, I was in the middle of work at that point, so I just thought, all right, well, I'll have to come back to that. I'll have to come back to the pig sometime. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. So this stuff happened, and I have felt much better today. So the way that I have felt poorly is not particularly in my gut or my, you know, there's the lower achiness stuff, which I think is often my ovaries get cysts. So that can be that. But so there was some alleviation of that discomfort pretty much went away. But the way I have been unwell is that I've been depressed, and not like the depressed I was in the springtime, which was kind of what I would call mild persistent, but just crying and any little thing that would go wrong during the day would just trigger that, and crying, and not, you know, there are some things that unhappy things that are going on. So I allow myself, you know, some grieving over that. But it was really feeling out of control. Like, why every little thing? What, this is not, I mean, maybe some people tend to react like this. It was out of character for me. And I'm like, and I think that's part of the reason that I was looking for healing. It's like, it's unproductive for one thing, to just be so emotional that you can't do what it is you need to do to solve some of the problems that I would have a valid reason to feel depressed about or sorrowful over. And so I find, so it's like, all right, we've got to do something here. And another, so again, I was asking for that help in terms of just clearing things and clearing things. And so that lifted throughout the day, this excessive sensitivity and the depressed crying kind of thing. And it isn't that I would cry all day, but it's just like the littlest frustration would trigger it, and it would be hard for me to then get a grip on it. And I pretty much stabilized today, throughout the day, relatively quickly. There were still some sensitive things before noon, but pretty much after noon, I stabilized. And in the end, I don't really know why. So could it have been the shamanic stuff? It could have been. Could it have been my determination? It's like, oh my God, this has got to stop. And I'm not just talking about a couple days. I've been like this for a couple of weeks. And so could it have been, but I was feeling that to begin with. I've been feeling it for weeks. It's like, God, this is just ridiculous and it's miserable. Why can't I stop? So, so it cleared. So the other thing that it could be, the reason that I'm feeling better, much more stable. Hallelujah. Not super, like super well. I still feel weak and some nauseated and stuff like that. Just I've been there for quite a while. But I also started taking a different antibiotic. And they've started to recognize this in recent years, that depression can be caused by a pathogen. I knew it before because of my Lyme disease. And in particular, there was one time I was feeling not like this tearful thing, but kind of having, I think it was having kind of hateful thoughts about myself and really getting down, having bad mental, getting down on myself kinds of thoughts that could have led to to feelings of worthlessness and beyond, to self-destructive stuff. But I recognized it, and I thought, you know what? And I recognized it as something that is not, that there was no grounding in what was going on at that moment that should make me feel that way, and that it wasn't natural for me. That wasn't this, the kind of this isn't me thing. And I don't know if I intentionally took an antibiotic for that specifically, or if it was just one of those moments where, because that's a common thing in Lyme disease, is you stay on one antibiotic for a while, and then the Lyme bacteria actually changes form after a while. It adapts to that, and then you switch the antibiotic, and then it starts to kill that, and then it switches and you go back. So I don't know if it was I can't remember anymore whether it was just a time for me to switch to antibiotics, or if I had been taking an antibiotic break, and then, it was time to go back on. But within a couple of days, it was doxycycline, it wasn't the antibiotic clarithromycin that I'm taking now. But it went away. Like an infection would go away when you take the right antibiotic for it. And I wasn't really anticipating that would be the result. Even if I was hoping that it would, I tend to be a skeptic. And so I went this time. I was thinking, well, I don't have, for the brain, the head area, Zithromax is the antibiotic I would tend to target for that. But I didn't have any Zithromax, but I did have clarithromycin, which also generally works on your sinuses in your head. And what did I start that on Monday? Or did I start it yesterday? I might have started it yesterday. Like I took a whole pill and I thought, oh my God, this is too much. And so I took a half pill in the evening. Too much because it was making me nauseated, which I don't recall that with clarithromycin, but and so I would have been taking it I would have taken it a full pill and then a half in the evening and then a half this morning. But when that's the nature of being, when you're not well and you're trying to fix it, you're not thinking about science. Like, well, I'll only do this and I'll see what happens, and I won't try anything else until I see whether or not this happens. No, it's like I'm pulling out the stops. I'm going to take this antibiotic and I'm going to do the energy, shamanistic, light worker, all of that. I'm going to do it and see if I can pull out of this. Do I think that I'm completely out of it? No. But I feel like I'm 80%. Like at this point, if I were to get teared up about the fact that I'm going to have to let go of one of my dogs, or maybe two of my dogs, I would say that that's normal. I should feel some grief about that, and I should be able to, I don't know, cry for 30 minutes, but I shouldn't, it shouldn't trigger something that can't stop or that won't stop, that goes on and on into the evening. And then, the first thing that I wake up with in the morning is, oh my God, I'm going to have to find a new home for a dog. And, or, what other things are triggering, or if, I don't know, I can't think of an example right now. Something goes wrong with my computer and it's not functioning exactly right or something, and it's like, oh my God, and then you end up having a crying jag over this thing that is essentially inconsequential, doesn't make that much difference. And again, this is not like me. And so that seems to have cleared up. And I wish I could pinpoint which of the things I mentioned was the greatest contributor um, to it clearing up. In any case, I certainly have more work. I need to figure out what's going on there at the solar plexus. Really, what the hell is going on with that? Regenerating blockage. A blockage that will allow you the illusion that it's being dissolved or eaten up or churned away or whatnot, but it's still there. Isn't there? Oh, it's like, it's not Sisyphus. Like, is it the labors of? It's the labors of Hercules, I think. But or is it Prometheus, where the eagle eats his liver and then it grows back, and so the eagle eats it again and then it grows back. There's some sort of thing in the Greek myths that's regenerative. I can't remember. So yeah, there's the daily weirdness, and I hope I can kind of figure out. I'm reading a book on shamanism. I'm reading is it Michael Harner? Harner, at any rate. Harner. His book on shamanism. And so here we landed on the Shaman of Loss, which is appropriate. But so Michael Harner's book, and I'm not in the very practical aspects. I'm not kind of in the treatment aspects yet. And I will talk about that book when I'm at some point. I'll probably do it before I get to the end. But I don't recall, because I've read the book before, but I don't recall that he talks much about like diagnosis, what it, like, how do you figure out? Maybe I'm supposed to ask, or maybe I'm supposed to, because they keep coming back. The more you listen to things, that you're supposed to be asking your spirit guides, but it's a little mystifying because when the spirit guides, like the power animals, are trying to help me dissolve this blockage or whatever, and maybe they're just trying to show me that it's something else. Maybe they're saying, like, see, I'm trying to do it. See, I'm working on it and it's not working. So you need to take a different approach, Jennifer. I don't know. But it would be, normally I would think that you would ask. You would then say, well, why isn't it working? I didn't think that. I didn't think to ask in that moment. The dragon is churning away and it's not working. I didn't stop to say, can we have a talk? Can we have a talk? It seemed like you had resolved this issue, but then it just came back. And so a power animal has never talked to me. There was one time when when a buffalo showed up, that I felt it was wanting to communicate with me in a verbal way, but it didn't. And I think I was in the middle of something, and it's like, oh, can't you just take me on a journey? I don't want to talk. I don't have any questions. I don't have a pen and pencil to record any wisdom, so let's just travel with me, walk me. Um, so I don't know how that would work. They have communicated with me by showing me things like body language and stuff like that. So I don't know how to solve this issue. But it's worth knowing that the issue is there, and I've kind of sensed it before, and I guess I've seen how persistent it is now, and see what else I can do. It's when I had my latest shamanic treatment, the shamanic practitioner, had said that there's an issue with my feet as well. And so that's something that needs to be looked into more. And, I tend to be kind of chakra because there's such great focus points in the body. So I tend to think of, your torso. I don't think about, my hands, my feet, and stuff like that. But, I suffer from weakness in my legs. So I think it's worth doing some more concentrated work that has to do with my lower body and seeing what happens. And there I think I come to the end of my ramble about this strange multi-healing experience that nonetheless is not, I think, I hear sometimes about like the theta healing thing. There was a woman who had cancer, and I don't know how often she didn't request, she commanded the beings of the light to cure her, or something along those lines. And I'm sure I'm not representing her accurately, but that's how it was kind of roughly conveyed to me. And there's the sense of, and of course, maybe if you have cancer of a specific area, it's easier to focus on that, and it's easier probably isn't the right word. It kind of diminishes the accomplishment. But it's a clearer point of focus and or extraction. Whereas when you're feeling like a malaise all throughout your body, and or you have something systemic all throughout your body, I think that's a different healing process. But even if I have that like focal point between the heart and the solar plexus chakra, and I can feel it now, this is a point of nausea, that there's one thing, and I don't know if it's related to wider systemic issues. I mean, your gut can be, or if it is isolated, could we just solve that one problem? Or do I have to really address the larger one in order to solve that one? And that's the whole reason that it's persisting and it won't go away. It's like, no, you have to solve the bigger issue before you can resolve this localized issue. So maybe I need to look into even, the in energy work, you have the chakras in the body, but you also have the things, the energy field that goes out from your body. And I can't remember all of the layers. And so maybe I need to look at that also. But anyway, I did have a positive result. I did start to feel better, even though I also felt like I had, like I was dealing with a cold, and that seems to have lightened up. Once upon a time, I would find that, like, if I was, that I would become more emotional, not for like 2 or 3 weeks at a stretch, but, like for a day. Like if I was feeling emotional for no reason, it was like, I know what this is. I'm coming down with something. Even though I wouldn't feel anything in my nose or my throat or anything, that would be the one symptom, would be this feeling emotional for no reason. And if I poo-pooed that and I said, and I was just like, fine, whatever, I don't have time. I have no reason, for one thing, to have a good cry, and I don't have the time for it right now. I have to finish this paper. I don't feel bad, I don't feel sick. So maybe I can just put it off for a day. I'll finish my paper, and I'll cry tomorrow. And we'll get out of the. It was, and this doesn't happen often, but when it did, it was just clear as day. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't honor that sort of clearing thing that apparently was going on. Why crying would clear? I mean, I guess you're clearing stuff out of your sinuses and your eyes and stuff. But if I didn't do it, I would get a cold the next day, like locked in cold. Whereas, and this is the difficult part, is you can't really prove it, but if I went ahead and I wallowed for a little bit, again, like 30 minutes, an hour, not for days at a time or weeks at a time, but if I went ahead and I said, all right, I'm going to think about my dog dying, and I am going to just, wallow. I'm going to let myself cry for a little bit because there's this inkling that I need to clear that. Then I would feel much better, and I would feel much better the next day. So could, but not for like weeks. That doesn't make any sense. What, unless it's some, like COVID-19, some inhuman, some outrageous illness that is needing to be purged and requires 2 weeks of depression and ultra sensitivity and thinking, my God, I can't talk to anybody, but if I say anything, if I do anything, I'm just going to be choked up and crying. And yeah, so whatever worked, I'm really grateful that it worked, and that I feel like a stable, normal human being again. But it's also kind of bizarre that I was down so deep in that, and that it could relieve within a few hours. Well, let's say half a day. Let's say half a day. Yeah. All right. I'm rambling, and I need to go to bed. So if anybody stuck with this ramble, well, you must be as weird as I am, that's for sure. Appreciate you hanging out, and feel free to share any experiences, any perspectives, any suggestions for further exploration in resolving some stuff via these strange sorts of methods. Yeah, I'm it's all experimental, so feel free to suggest. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.